I want to make one thing clear from the beginning. When we're talking about loving the church, we're not talking about some kind of mushy infatuation, concert-going fan club kind of love. We're not talking about some kind of self-serving, self-pleasing, self-seeking attitudes and actions. What we're talking about is something real and difficult and messy and glorious and beautiful and joyful at the same time. We're talking about serving and giving and forgiving and looking out for the best interest of someone else, even when you're the hurt one. Something so utterly impossible without Jesus Christ. That's one of the reasons why Paul calls Jesus the head of the church. Because without him, there is no authentic community. There's no forgiveness. There's no unconditional love. There's no new humanity. You see, it's easy being a fan. I remember a number of years ago going to a bunch of concerts with friends, and we'd dance, we'd stay out all night, we had a great time. But there's something about being a fan. You kind of come and go, and the artist or the group or the band that you're into doesn't make any demands on you. And you can be a fan of Jesus in the church, but it doesn't mean that you're a follower, because the difference between a fan and a follower is that the follower knows that Jesus makes demands, and the follower obeys. It reminds me of the difference that one pastor talks about between loving God and loving God. You see, loving God is looking for a certain feeling, a certain atmosphere, something that makes you feel good. And loving God is looking for His presence, seeking His glory, seeking to obey His commandments. It's also easy being in love. I remember when my wife and I first started dating, and we had the butterflies on the stomach, and it was fun, and it was cool, and it was all good, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of how God made it. That's part of the process. But it's utterly selfish. Whatever you like about the person, there's something about that person that makes you feel good, and as the relationship goes on, you realize sometimes you got to give up your preferences and your desires to meet the needs of the other person and put the other person in the first place. And that's where real, authentic love begins. Jesus says in John 15:33, greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. And then he goes on to call his disciples friends. And of course, he goes on to set the perfect example, dying on the cross, giving up his life for his friends. And it may not mean that loving the church for you and me means that we literally die. Maybe it will. I don't know. But I know that it will mean voluntarily giving up of ourselves, our preferences, our insistence on always being right, of nursing our wounds. It means forgiving even when we're hurt, serving even when someone else isn't grateful. That's giving up one's life for his friends. It's giving up of oneself for somebody else. That's real love. So whether it's in your marriage, with your kids, in your college apartment, with your friends, I don't know, whatever your situation may be, love is serving and giving and forgiving and looking out for the best interests of someone else. And when it comes to loving the church, I love what Tom Rainer says. It's about making yourself a servant, giving and putting others in the first place. So may we radically live out the authentic love of Jesus Christ. And may we always love the church better.